men find it much more difficult to adjust to living in dementia facilities than women do, because women, they find it much more difficult to connect, to make friends. If they're nurses and teachers, which often many of them are, then they'll connect in with their, social professional groups. But the men often just roam around and find it really hard to sort of get a base and connect in. So it's rare really that a farmer will find another farmer or an accountant will find another accountant, because there's often just a few of them in the unit. So they need a lot more specific attention to be able to help them garner friendships and connection within a dementia unit. So I'll just go into a few examples of this today, examples that have worked. So there was one man that was at the dementia facility, and he had been a coast guard. He loved the sea, loved the ocean, and everything about the sea, and ships and yachts and etc. So when he came, he was really at sea, literally. I mean, he was really depressed, seriously depressed, and, he wasn't making it at all. Everyone tried. He was a really lovely man, had a very supportive wife, but there was nothing about the place that he could connect in with. And he was younger, so that always makes it harder. Well, early 70s, mid 70s, which is actually quite young. And his wife was very concerned. Nothing was really interesting him. The first thing that actually started to interest him, because he hadn't been a big reader, because he'd been on the ocean all his life, and he never he was very observant and astute, but he wasn't a big reader. So he didn't really like the activities, wasn't really interested in the press reading, but he did connect in with, interestingly enough, because he hadn't done it much in his life, but he connected in with jigsaw puzzles, which his wife she'd been the one to bring them in, thinking that, it might help him. And they were amazing, those jigsaw puzzles, actually, with how he was able to connect in with those. It really changed his life, literally, because it was an activity, it was practical, it was like building back for him. They were lovely scenes of the world, or the New Zealand and the ocean and the sea and everything that he'd fit together in the jigsaw puzzle. And he'd often do it with his wife, or other men would come and help. Yeah, that was a really good way of creating friendship at the unit, these jigsaw puzzles. That was really the first activity that took off, that connected the men together, those jigsaw puzzles. Because, it takes focus, it takes concentration, it takes presence to concentrate on putting the large jigsaw puzzles together. And so you can't concentrate and focus if you're angry, or you're stressed out. You have to actually, come into the present moment and concentrate to do jigsaw puzzles. So as a result of that, you have to put aside all the negative, so to speak. So it was a very good de-escalator, these jigsaw puzzles, and especially if food was brought along as well, by whoever, either the wife, if she'd bought something nice, or whether the staff, morning, afternoon, tea time, cups of tea and cake, if that came into the mix as well, that was very good. And these men would sit, doing these jigsaw puzzles for, an hour or so, a good length of time. And the man himself, the sailor, he would often sit doing those jigsaw puzzles for 2 hours at a time, which was remarkable, because he was actually a popular guy, handsome in a sense, tall, broad-shouldered, younger. So all the women, of course, loved him. And even the men used to trail him a bit, too much at times, and sort of, we call it shadowing, where, they just sort of hover behind you or with you and don't let you go, questioning flat out all day. And it can become overwhelming, especially for, residents that are empathetic and kind, as in life itself. People can just take advantage, residents can take advantage of you and just download all day. Oh, it's really not good. So just be aware of that with your, family member. If that's the case, there needs to be measures put in place to protect them, actually. So with this man who was the sailor, what the staff used to do was they would just bring him into the nursing station, which is locked, so residents can't get in. He was allowed in, the privileged, point of seating, the privileged place, set up the jigsaw puzzles. There he'd go. 1 hour doing the Black Stallion, or 2 hours doing New Zealand jigsaws. And it was actually quite hilarious because he was a very lovely man, and he was pleasant company, and the staff used to enjoy having him in the nurses station because he was reliable, consistent, never got angry, no problem. And he'd often, in the weekends when there were few staff, he'd just sort of wave to the visitors coming into the dementia facility, good morning, and they didn't know whether he was staff or a resident. And then he'd say, she's over there, the nurse, she's over there. And so he actually covered a lot of roles there. And then this distressed women coming along, as they would often be, distressed women are always at the nurses station wanting to call their, long lost sons and such like. But if he was there, they'd look over the counter and focus on his jigsaw puzzle and see what he was doing and say 1 or 2 comments, and sometimes lean over and help him find a piece to put in the puzzle. So in this way, he became very engaged with the community. The man that was shadowing him wasn't able to do that when he was in the dementia facility. And in this way, he was actually able to get out of a serious depression. So this is just one of many ways that can help. Also, another thing his wife did was she bought in a really beautiful lazy boy chair, his favourite from home, a huge great leather one, and she put up a really big poster of him on the sea, on his ship, front and centre, commanding the ship, or it was more a yacht. It was a lovely photo with the, huge sea in the background, and he'd lie in his seat and look at this beautiful poster and be taken away, with positive, lovely memories. So for him, that they were the things that were put in place to enable him to adjust in the dementia facility. So these are just examples of ways that, can be put in place for men if they're not adjusting to dementia facilities. It is more specific for men. You really need to sort of work out different methods and means, because the women really, as long as they make a friend and they can sit in the lounge, and join in activities, honestly, after 2 or 3 months, most of them adjust. It's just like home to them, isn't it? And that's what it's pitched as at the dementia facility, that this is now your home. And so they're at home, and often they'll help with the kitchen, do a bit of sweeping or wash up a few dishes or take the cups back to the kitchen or, whatever it is. But the men need something a little bit more specific, as I've just explained in this video, and it takes a bit more consideration and time. There was another man, he was an architect, fabulous architect. He had books in his room was beautifully set up, really comfortable, beautiful. And he had big books of all his architectural work throughout his life, precious, big, expensive books that his family had left in there. And they were great. He'd flick through them. And then in the activities, we'd bring the books to the activities and have him explain about them, to the other women and people there. And so he could be introduced to the group, so he could be part of the group. And actually from that one activity of introducing him and his fabulous architectural work with his books, he became a lot more connected. And there was another man, a farmer, who had a lot of problems connecting in with the group, till one day, I actually asked him to help move the heavy chairs to the group, because, it was trying to get it all sorted out. And he could easily do that, big, strong-shouldered man, pushed all these chairs in to get the U-circle sorted, and the women praising him, saying, oh, you're so strong, such big shoulders, thank you for pushing the chairs, into position. And with that praise, literally, that was enough for him to feel connected. And he joined in all the workshops after that. So these are just some ways of enabling men to connect in with dementia facilities, very important. So Please, the books below, The Resident's Voice and The Resident's Rise from a Dementia Unit, in the description below, and thank you for your likes.